Welcome everyone to Grow with GoGo's functional fitness class today. This is something that we are offering as part of your GoGo membership. So every week we're alternating between chair yoga and functional fitness, just to give you something else from GoGo, something that feels a little more social, and we get the opportunity to meet each other. You can meet other GoGo customers from across the country, as you can see from the chat. So we're glad that you're taking advantage of this program. You probably came to GoGo because you were looking for a service, and it might have been rides, meals, groceries. Some people don't know that we also offer prescription delivery, and we also offer home services. So those are things just to know. You can get all of them with the same phone number. So it's 855-464-6872, and that's how you connect with GoGo. And I'm Cassie. I'm GoGo's Communications Director, and every week we are joined by Adra, and so I'm going to pass it over to her.
Thanks, Cassie. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. Good to see lots of familiar faces and names and some new ones. Great to have you here for our functional fitness class. If we haven't met, I'm Adra. I'm the teacher for these classes. So today we have functional fitness. So what you need is generally a chair. We don't sit very much in functional fitness, although you can sit whenever we're doing upper body things. And then we might sit a few times for some stretches and a few strength exercises. Wall space can be helpful for balance, but you could also use a chair for balance. And then I'm using some light dumbbells. But if you don't have dumbbells, you can grab some water bottles, cans, or nothing at all and move through all of the motions without weight. It generally will be challenging enough without the weight. And you can always imagine that you're carrying something heavy, and that just imagination of carrying something heavy will create resistance in your muscles. So just know that it's totally okay if you don't have a water bottle, a can, or weights. So that's all you need. Before we get going, does anybody remember the functional fitness move of the week? So not from yoga last week, but from the move or from the week before.
Heel raises.
Wow, that was so quick. Well done. I didn't even see who said that. It was so fast.
I'm Patrice. PH bears what it comes on my screen, but
So both Patrice and I think Barbara said it one after the other, really close to the same time. That's great. Great. I'm so glad you remember it. I hope some of you actually practiced some heel raises over the last week or two. And you'll stay tuned for figuring out what the move is this week, and I'll let you know at the end of class. So without further ado, let's get moving. I'm gonna take off my sweater. So here, hopefully my screen becomes what you see most of. If you don't, you'll want to look at the top, if you're on a computer, top right-hand corner of your computer, and there's this view. You can click on view and you'll either see gallery mode where you can see everybody, or speaker mode. So it's up to you. Maybe you want to watch everyone move with you, or pick speaker mode so you can see me. All right, let's just start standing. So just finding a nice comfortable standing position. Let's do a few big shoulder rolls back. And a few big shoulder rolls forward. Relax those shoulders. Let's inhale, open up the arms, lift the chest up to the ceiling, moving sideways so you can see. So we're stretching the front of the body, through into the sky. And then round the back, drop your chin, wrap your arms around your body, give yourself a hug, like you're trying to make a nice rounded back. So we inhale, open the front of the body, reach those arms up, lift the sternum, and then exhale, tuck your tail, drop your chin, round your back. Couple more times here, follow your breath. So don't worry about my speed or anybody else's. Move at your own pace. Just remembering that this is your time. So if at any point in class you want to modify or add something, subtract something, take a break, you're absolutely welcome to do so. You're encouraged to make this work for your body. All right, let's come back to center, relax the arms, and begin to bend side to side. So as you bend side to side, notice any weight shift in your legs. So when you bend to the right, does your weight shift to one foot or the other? As you bend to the left, does your weight shift to one foot or the other? So just notice what your natural tendency is. And then now I'm going to encourage you to do it a specific way. So when you side bend to the right, I want you to shift your weight onto that left foot, or more weight onto the left foot. And when you side bend to the left, I want you to shift more weight onto that right foot. I'll say that one more time just in case that was a bit too fast. So when you side bend, reaching that right hand down towards the ground, put more weight into your left foot. And when you side bend, getting that left hand closer to the ground, you want to weight shift more into that right foot. That just allows you to find a little bit more range. All right, and then let's come back to center. Go ahead and soften your knees. So just a slight bend in those knees. Keep your legs stable, so try not to move your lower body. We'll bring our fingertips to our shoulders, and we're going to twist just the upper body. So we're finding rotation in the spine, but we're not moving our lower body as best we can. And now noticing any weight shift in your feet as you rotate. So noticing if there's any weight shift, maybe it stays exactly the same. Now it's going to be a little different how we think about our weight shift on our feet while we twist. So when you rotate to the right, I want you to shift more weight into that right foot. And then when you rotate to the left, I want you to put more weight onto that left foot. So again, when you twist to the right, more weight onto that right foot. When you twist to the left, more weight onto that left foot. And just keep going. Noticing, does that help you go a little bit further? The other thing you might think about is, what are your eyes doing? Can your eyes continue the twist? So you're not just rotating from your torso and your head, but your eyes also follow, trying to go as far as they can. Got one more time each side. And then coming back to center, release those arms. Let's take those feet a little bit wider than those hips and those shoulders. Toes can either face forward or turn out. It's just up to you what's comfortable for squats. We'll go into a few squats. So we inhale, bend those knees, reach those arms forward. I'm turning sideways just so you can see. You don't need to move. And then exhale, straighten those legs, lower the arms. We inhale, bend the knees, arms come up, and we straighten the legs. Keep going, follow your breath. All right, and then releasing, shaking it off. All right, so I want you to be mindful as to how you do this, and try and do this. It's hard to do this, but try and do this the way you would normally do it, even though you're observant. I want you to go and reach for your weights and pick them up, and just notice how you do that motion. If you don't have weights, go ahead and pretend you're picking something up from either your table, your chair, or the ground, wherever you'd like. And just notice how you might do something, how you might do a movement like picking up your weights. And then put them back down. So now I'm going to give you some ideas of how you maybe did that. And let's say your weights were on a chair, so it's a little bit lower of a surface, but not all the way down on the ground. Did you round your back, kind of curve your upper back or your lower back to reach, and kept your legs relatively straight? Did you bend your knees and keep your torso upright? Did you bend and round? Did you hinge forward from your hips with straight legs? So that's several different ways you maybe pick something up. So I'll say them again. Maybe you rounded your back. So maybe all of the work was in your spine and you picked it up. Maybe you bent your knees to grab, or maybe you really mostly hinged at the hips to grab. So we're gonna try that again. Just notice, go forward, pick up, notice how you do it. And also notice how you put them back down. And now I'm going to encourage you to do it in a specific way, in a way that's maybe a little bit more biomechanically sound or safe for your body. What's really hard on our spine and on our body is this rounding of the back to pick something up, especially as it gets heavy. So I'm thinking like you're opening your oven, you're bending forward to pull something out of the oven, and this rounding the back puts so much pressure on each of your vertebrae. You have so many little bones there versus getting those legs to do the work. So what I want to encourage you to do when you bend over now is to really bend at the hips and the knees. So the knees bend and the hips bend. These are bigger joints. They can take a lot more load than our spine. And see if you can keep your spine relatively flat. So we're doing that. You're going to get into that position, grab your weights, and then pull your weights towards you, and then come up. So we're going to practice just that motion while holding the weights. You can get rid of your chair position. You don't need to keep putting your weights back on your chair or your table. But you're going to have your weights in your hands or imaginary weights. Bend those knees, hips go back, reach those arms a little bit forward like you're going to place your weights down and then come up. So we're doing sort of like squats, but generally you'll be more narrow and you're really trying to get those hips and those knees to do the work, not your spine. So keep going. So imagine you almost had, so you're bending and straightening. Imagine that there's a rod in your spine. And so you cannot move your vertebra. Your spine cannot move. How low are you able to go without bending your spine? So at some point there may be, your knees can't go any further, your hips can't go any further. And so that's when your spine wants to move. So I want you to figure out, where is that point for you? And that might be really small, especially if you have a knee injury or a hip injury, or you're just not used to doing this motion of really bending at the hips and the knees and not at the spine. Let's do a few more. Well, how low can you go without bending the spine? So hopefully your legs are burning a little bit. Mine are. All right, and then let's go ahead and stand tall. Let that go. We're going to come back to that a little bit later, that concept a little later. So just keep it in the back of your mind. But we're going to give our legs a break and work those arms. So holding your weights or your hands or your water bottles or nothing at all, just a few small shoulder rolls. And go the other way with those shoulder rolls. All right, let's do some bicep curls. You can turn those palms to face forward. We're bending the elbows, hands come towards your shoulders and lowering the arms down. So bending and straightening. I'm just turning sideways so you get a different view. Notice that my upper arms aren't really moving. It's just the lower arms. So I'm not swinging. So this is what we're not doing, right? We're not swinging and using momentum. We're keeping the upper arms very still and straightening and bending the lower part of the arms. We're moving the lower part of the arms. Notice the weight on your feet, keep it even, couple more bicep curls. Good, and then release, straighten out those arms, maybe a couple shoulder rolls back again. And a couple shoulder rolls forward. All right, Go ahead and put those weights down to the side. We're gonna wanna have our chair or the wall for balance support. I'm gonna turn my chair. You don't actually need to turn. I'm just turning it so that it's easier for you to see me. Be mindful as to how you put your weights down, especially if they feel heavy. Now place your right hand on your support. So that can be on your chair, on a table, on a wall. We're going to balance here on the right leg. So go ahead and lift your left foot off the ground. Just find that balance point. You can stay here holding on to your chair. Or if you want a little more challenge, you're going to lighten how hard you're holding on. So maybe it's just one finger or two fingers. Maybe you're hovering your hand. But we're trying to find that balance point. Is it possible to balance here? And then go ahead and bring the hand back down. If you're balancing the hand, flip back down. And we'll switch sides. I'm just going to turn around so my back is to you just for a few moments. Other hand is on the chair. So if you did the same side as me, left hand is on the chair, left foot stays on the ground. We're lifting that right leg up and just balancing here. Maybe you're still holding on. Maybe it's just the tips of the fingers. Maybe you're hovering your hand. So give yourself the right amount of challenge. So it should be a little bit hard, but not extremely hard, right? I want you to feel safe. Totally okay though to wiggle a little, to wobble a little. Right, and then releasing the hand, releasing the foot, shake it off. We're adding another element to this balance. I'm going to turn back around and face you, right hand to the chair or wall, right foot on the ground. You're going to try and keep your spine still. So we're not moving the spine, just like we were doing earlier with those kind of squats. We're trying to keep the spine still. And you're going to lift your left leg up. You're going to try and lift it as high as you can without changing the shape of the spine. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see. So right now you see my spine is not moving with that leg as it lifts. But what tends to happen is the higher you lift, the back starts to round. So see how high can you lift that leg without your back changing position, without your ribs changing position. You might start to feel those hip flexors or those muscles in the front of your hip or kind of where your pelvis meets your thigh. They might start to cramp up a little bit. They're working hard. Go ahead and release. So just notice, okay, how high did you go? And then we switch sides. So other hand on the chair, you're lifting that right leg up, turning sideways. Again, you're trying not to move your spine. So the spine stays exactly the same as you pull the knee up. How high can you go without moving your spine? And really everyone's different. Some people, it's only going to be just below 90 degrees. If that's you, that's okay. You're figuring out, where do you stand? How far can you move that hip without moving the spine? We're trying to find this pure hip movement or thigh bone in the hip socket movement. Bring it down, shake it off. Okay, adding another element. Hand on the chair. We're standing on the right leg, right hand on the chair. You're going to lift that left leg up once again. So spine doesn't move. Go for about 90 degrees. And then are you able to rotate your thigh in and out? So my lower leg is actually not doing the movement. The movement is coming from my hip socket. So from that thigh bone moving in the hip socket. So can I turn that knee to face out, that left knee to face out to the left? And then can I turn that left knee to face to the right? How much movement do you have? It might be teeny tiny, and that's okay. Right, I have a decent amount of movement, but I've been doing this and I've been practicing this for a long time. Great, and then lower the leg. You can turn around and switch sides. I'm gonna just keep facing you because otherwise it'll be hard for you to see. So left hand on your chair or on the wall for support, stand on your left leg. Lift your right leg up. Thigh is about 90 degrees. Even if you can go further up, don't go further. Keep your spine still so there's no movement in the spine or in the waist. Can you move that thigh bone in the hip socket? Here's another cheat that sometimes will happen here. When the knee tries to point to the right, you might start to try and lift that right hip up, shortening the right side of the waist. Try not to do that. So the torso is not moving at all. It's just that thigh bone moving in the hip socket. All right, that's enough of that. Go ahead and bring it down, shake it off, and we're gonna have a seat. So if your weights are in the way, just be mindful as to how you move your weights. Go ahead and have a seat. And we're going to stretch our hips a little bit more. So we're activating those hips. So we were moving our hips really actively a minute ago. Now we're going to stretch them. So let's take the right ankle and try and cross that right ankle over the left thigh or above the left knee. If this is really hard to get into this position, I recommend that you put several pillows or maybe some firm textbooks underneath your seat. So underneath your bum to lift your seat higher. The higher your seat is, the easier this will be. So once you're there, I'm going to turn sideways. You don't need to move. Once you're there, notice what your low back is doing. Are you rounding and curving in your low back? Are you able to sit really tall so that you're on top of your sits bones and that your spine is in mostly a neutral position? Is that possible? So for most of us, what you want to think about to find that neutral is to think about reaching your tailbone towards the wall behind you. So instead of letting your tail tuck between your legs, you're thinking, can I reach that tail back behind me? And then from here, maybe you can hinge forward, not from the spine, but from the pelvis rolling over your thighs. Maybe you can hinge forward a couple of inches. That will give you more stretch in that glute region. And you might even feel this in the inner thigh. So everyone's a little different where you feel it. Should be felt around that right hip. So I'm mirroring you, that right hip region. All right, coming up, uncross the leg, shake it off, and we switch sides. So other ankle. So if you're doing the same as me, I'm mirroring you, left ankle crosses over the right thigh. Sitting up on some pillows or books if you need more support. You might notice your lower leg. Notice if that lower leg is at an angle, that bottom leg, that right leg, is it at an angle? Can you allow that right lower leg or shin to be vertical, straight up and down? That will give you more stretch. If the foot starts to move to the side, you're going to get less stretch, which is also okay. Just notice, how does your body like to organize itself? Think about your spine. Are you rounding your low back? Are you rounding your upper back? Is it possible to be in this figure 4 stretch, this position of your hips, without moving your spine? Can your spine be neutral or not? It's okay if it's not, but finding that awareness, noticing, is it neutral? Can I find neutral? Jaws relaxed. If you'd like, you can hinge a little bit forward. And again, if you're hinging forward, it's because you have that flexibility in your hips that you can roll your pelvis forward over your thighs. So the pelvis being those hip bones over your thighs, not your spine moving so much. We're getting these movements to protect our spine because that's where we often injure ourselves. There's so much back pain. Of course, there are hip injuries and hip replacements, but there's so much back pain and degeneration in our discs from using our spines a lot and not using our big muscles and our big joints as much. Right, and then go ahead and undo the legs, shake them off. We're going to stay seated for just another minute before we stand up again. So from your chair, I'm turning sideways so you can see, you don't need to turn. We're going to do a hip hinge with the feet flat on the ground. So feet are on the ground, ankles are under the knees, thighs are maybe parallel to the earth, just depends on the height of your chair. Spine stays still, so there's no movement in the spine. We're hinging forward from the hip bones or from the pelvis rolling over the hip bones. So there's like a rod in your spine. See how low you can go. See how low you can hinge forward before you need to round your spine. And then lift yourself back up. So do that a few times. We're hinging forward. How far can you hinge forward without rounding your back? And then come back up. So a few more times at your own pace, just paying attention, noticing, is there any pinchy spots? Any areas where this actually feels really good? Does this feel like a new movement to you, to be hinging at the hips without moving your spine? All right, and then let's go ahead and come on up to stand. We're going to grab those weights if you have them. If you don't have your weights, it's okay. You don't need to have the weights. So now we're going to use those concepts to pick something up off the floor or almost on the floor. Just adjust my camera so you can see my feet a little bit more. So if you were to pick something up off the floor, or maybe pick some like groceries off the ground, this is the way we're going to want to do that. So we're going back to that nice bend of the knees and hips, reaching forward, and then reach as far forward as you can. So figure out where your limit is. Far forward as you can without moving your spine. So how low can you go without moving your spine? And then come back up. So I have a lot of flexibility there. So for some of you, it may be that you're only bending a couple of inches before your spine wants to move. And then back up. So just move to your full range. So go to where you can. You're bending those knees. You're bending those hips. The spine stays exactly the same. Those hands are reaching towards the earth without rounding the back, right? So this is what we're not doing. We're not rounding the back. And then back up. Whew. Let's do a few more. So keep going at your own pace. You're bending those knees. You're bending those hips. You're reaching for the earth. How can you pick something up without moving your spine? Is it possible in this parallel position? Just do two more like that. All right. Now we're going to play with a staggered stance for getting down on the ground. You might choose to keep holding your weights. You might decide you don't want to hold your weights. Then you want to hold a hand to your chair or to your wall. So just know that that's an option. Please hold on if balance is tricky. So put your weights down and grab your chair or your wall. I'm going to turn the chair sideways so that it's close to me, to my side. Highly recommend that you have something close by if needed. All right, so now we're going to split our stance. So let's step the left foot forward, right leg back. My feet are about a foot apart. Again, feel free to hold your chair. Same idea, we're going to bend the knees, hinge at the hips. Notice the spine does not change shape. How far forward can you go? Is this easier or harder? And then come back up. You can play with the length of your stance. So if you want to make it longer or shorter, you're welcome to. So I'm going to just tell you the setup once again. Left foot is in front, right leg is in back. My feet are about a foot apart, but maybe yours are 2 feet apart, or maybe they're half a foot apart. Play around. All 10 toes face forward. I have a chair by my side just in case I need it for balance. So be kind to your body. Spine does not change shape. We bend the knees. We let the back heel lift off the ground and we hinge at the hips. So right, I'm moving that torso forward without moving the spine. Go as low as is comfortable, right? I have that flexibility to go low. Maybe you're only going a couple inches and then come back up. Let's do that 2 or 3 more times at your own pace. All right. Take note of which leg is in front. So if you did the same as me, that would be your left. And we're going to switch. So I'm going to turn around. Again, the chair is nearby for balance. Right foot steps forward, left foot is back. My feet are about a foot apart, but you can play. All 10 toes face forward. Your back heel is going to have to lift off the ground to find this range of motion. So it's different than what we were doing in the regular kind of squats or those deadlift positions, because the heels were down. When both of our feet were next to each other, the heels stayed down. Now we have to find some ankle motion or heel motion. So we're bending our knees, we're hinging forward at the hips, we let the back lift off the ground, and notice how low can you go without moving your spine, and then come on up. So keep doing that. And so why are we doing this? Partially because I think last week or last functional fitness, there was a question about how to incorporate what we're learning here into daily life, right? So this is different ways to figure out how can I pick something up off the earth without injuring my back? How can we find ways to find strength in the legs and the hips and the ankles so that we can keep our spine safe and steady? 2 more times. Right, and then go ahead and come on up, shake it off. Let's go back to those arms. We're going to go into some overhead pressing. So grabbing those weights, if you've put them down for that last exercise. We're going to bring the palms to face forward and the hands are by the shoulders. Weight is even on your feet. We're going to press those arms up to the ceiling and then bend again. Up and down. The weights start to feel really heavy, put them down or alternate. One arm and then the other. Couple more. All right, let's lower those arms, put those weights down. Whew, shake it off. Okay, so now we're going to go into a movement that requires some balance, some hinging, and some rotation. I like to think about this as the how do we put our socks on in standing. So if you'd like, go ahead and grab your chair. Let's go right hand on the chair, right hand near a wall if you need to grab a hold. Let's stand on our left foot and lift the right leg up. So we're going into that hinged position of the hips, right? So the leg goes to about 90. Can you do that without moving your spine? I'm going to go sideways. I think that will be best. Now, how close can you get to your foot? I'll go at an angle. How close can you get to your foot without rounding your back? Right? I can't actually get to my foot without rounding my back, but how close can you get? Maybe you add another motion, that rotation that we did. So knee goes out to the right. So if our right foot is, let's say our right foot is up. If our knee goes out to the right, can you reach for your right foot by bringing that right foot over to the left? I'm just showing different angles. How close can you get without rounding the back? This should be a lot of work. This is a lot of work for me. And then lower the leg. Whew. Shake it off. Let's try the other leg. So lifting your other leg up, finding that 90-degree bend without moving your spine. Stay there. First, see, can you hinge forward from the hips? So this is hinging from the hips that I'm showing you right now. This is hinging from the spine, right? I can touch my foot by rounding my back. Is it possible to get close to the foot without rounding the back? After you've played with that a little bit, maybe you find that rotation. So the knee goes out to the side, the foot moves in towards the middle of the body. Right, I'm gonna go see if we can get lots of different angles here. Can you hinge that way and get close to the foot without bending the spine, without twisting the spine? Now, there's nothing wrong with moving the spine. In fact, it's very important to move the spine, but we're trying to find ways, can we get that flexibility and strength in our hips, in our big joints, so that we don't have to stress the spine if we don't want to. So a couple more tries of reaching towards your foot without bending the spine. Is it at all possible? All right, and release. Shake it off. Just a few more things. Let's grab those weights if you want them. More of a standard compound movement. We're going to do our squats. with our arms reaching down to reach for the earth when we squat, and then add an overhead press. So I will show you sideways. My feet or your feet are a little wider than your shoulders. Toes can face forward or slightly out to this side. We're bending the knees, hinging at the hips. Go as low as you can. And then as you straighten your legs, elbows bend, and then arms press up to the ceiling. Arms lower, you bend your knees. You're reaching down towards the earth. You're probably not going to touch the ground, but you're moving in that direction. And then you straighten the legs as you bend your elbows and overhead press. So we reach down. We're bending the knees kind of in a squat or a deadlift. You're sort of halfway between the two as you reach down. And then we straighten the legs as we press those arms overhead. So we're combining lots of movements. This is you picking something up off the floor and then lifting it up to your chest and then putting it up on a high shelf. You get tired, put those weights down or slow the movement down or take a few breaths of break. Couple more. All right, and then let's put those weights down. And we're going to move our spine again. So we just spent a lot of time keeping our spine, our core really stable to stabilize our spine. Now we're going to do, just like we did at the beginning, some of those spinal movements. So you're going to open up those arms and lift the chest. So we're extending the spine, stretching the front of the body, and then round your back. Tuck your tail, give yourself a hug. Now we're rounding the spine or flexing the spine. So spinal movement is extremely important in life, but it's also important to know how to stabilize the spine and not move it. So being able to do something or to move something is just as important as being able to stabilize it. Coming back to center, releasing those arms. Let's do those side bends. So again, this is spinal movement as well. And then back to center. Let's take our fingertips to our shoulders. Soften those knees. Keep your lower body stable. Twist just your upper body. Twist your torso. Let your eyes follow the twist to let you go a little bit further. So our eyes really can help us move into deeper ranges of motion. And then coming back to center, releasing the arms. We're going to do the move of the week. The move of the week is hinging forward. So let's say these are deadlifts to pick things off the ground. You're going to bend those knees, hips come forward. You reach as far forward as you can without changing the shape of the spine, and then come up to stand. So the move of the week is essentially deadlifts to pick something up off the ground, but they're deadlifts. We're bending the knees, hinging at the hips, leaning as far forward as you can to get those hands as close to the earth without changing the shape of your spine, and come up. Let's do it just one more time together. We're bending the knees, hips go back, spine stays exactly the same as those arms reach towards the earth, and then come to stand. Beautiful. Let's inhale, reach those arms out to the side and up towards the ceiling, reaching tall, take up some space. Palms touch, exhale, hands move down towards your chest. Let's do that one more time. Inhale, arms circle out to the side and up to the sky, reaching. And palms touch, exhale, hands lower down to your chest. Give yourself a round. Awesome work, everybody. So today was a little bit more technical than often. So some days when we do class, we just go through all the moves. I don't explain why we might be doing them or talk about how we can functionally incorporate them into our daily lives, but I thought we'd do something a little different today. So that's what that was. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to say something. Yes, I see Carol, you're raising your hand.
Yes, the very first move when we leaned to the side and you wanted to shift the weight on the feet, do we shift the weight onto the foot where we lower our arm?
No, so great
Or
question.
is it the
Yes,
opposite foot?
so it can be confusing. Yes. So
Yeah, it
when we
was.
side, yeah, because I said something different for different things. So for side bending, we're talking, the reason the weight shift is like this is because it's the way the rest of our body likes to organize itself or optimally organizes itself for more range. When you side bend to the right, so I'm side bending to the right, so I'm reaching my right hand down. I'm not mirroring because otherwise my brain might get confused. When I side bend to the right, weight shifts to the left. So with the side bend, the hand that goes down, the opposite foot pushes into the earth.
Okay.
But when we twist, when we rotate to the right, weight shifts onto the right foot. But we'll keep revisiting it. You don't need to memorize these things. This is more the way the body will move optimally when we're thinking about it as a system. Our body wants to move together, right? We're not just individual parts. And so that helps us move kind of as a whole body system better.
Okay, it just seemed awkward to shift to the opposite side as we were lowering.
Yeah. So sometimes we've learned to do something. I see the hand, so I haven't forgotten you. Sometimes it can be awkward to do a movement in a new way, right? So the body has kind of organized itself to do something a certain way, and now it's a retraining. So totally normal for it to feel funny. Is that Norma that you had your hand up?
Yes. Question. I have some knee difficulties and I've just received an injection. Is it all right if I modify by sitting in the chair to do some of these things as opposed to standing? I tried standing and I went, whereas sitting down, I was able to do it more comfortably.
Then that is perfect. You definitely know what your body needs. So if you're standing and it doesn't feel good and sitting feels better, then please do that. That's great that you modified and you made that work for yourself.
Thank you. And thank you for a wonderful session.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for Adria while we have her? I made it so we can see everybody. You should be able to see the full gallery. Hi, everybody. Looks like someone, Richard, are you coming off mute? No pressure to anyone, just always good to hear feedback. Yep, Bertha?
Just a comment. Years ago, I had an overuse injury that came from overusing fingers, and I had therapy, and I was counseled to use the largest joint possible for joint preservation. And I've avoided a recurrence of the problem.
That's awesome, Bertha. That's exactly right. Is when we start to overuse those little tiny joints, it can be really hard on our body, and our bigger joints are made to take more load. They're made to take more weight. So that's really awesome that worked for you.
And I'll tell you what brought it on, the use of plastic bags. I said, I can carry 3 or 4 plastic grocery bags in one hand.
Yeah, that's always a game. Can I do it? Can I maybe not have to go back to the car?
Thank you.
You can think about it as a good workout. You
Barbara.
have to walk back to the car a couple of times.
This is really a wonderful gift that you people provide, and I tripped on it purely accidentally, and today is my first session with you. So it's so nice to see a whole new bunch of friendly faces doing the strenuous work at the same time. So I wish you all peace in your soul and sunshine in your hearts today.
Oh, that's so
And
nice.
please don't say that you tripped on it.
I did not say I tripped.
Oh, I guess I heard it wrong. You came across.
Well, I'm in the woods in the mountains. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that. That's so nice, Norma. Thanks for sharing. Well, so just so everybody knows, you'll get an email after today's session. You'll get the video, or you'll get directed to our YouTube channel where we're going to post the video. And in those emails, we're always promoting our Facebook group because it's just another way for us to have a community. So feel free to follow us there. I think you'll see a lot of the same folks that are in this Zoom room also there. Does anybody else have anything they want to ask Adra? I always like to use the time just because she's such a resource.
Big hugs to everybody.
Thank you, Norma.
We shall see you next week, Adra.
Yes, yoga next week.
Yes.
And remember the move of the week for next functional fitness class.
Can you repeat it again, Adra?
Yeah, so it's a little complicated. That's probably why. I'm going to say, you can say deadlifts. Deadlifts if you just want a single word, or you can show me next week, you could show, or next functional fitness, you could show me the deadlift of hinging forward to get something off the ground. I'll just show you again. So in strength terms, this would be a deadlift, but really we're thinking deadlift to pick things up off of the earth or off the ground. So that nice big hinge of the hips, bend of the knees, spine is long. So I'll accept you showing me the movement without saying it, if that's better.
Adra, but if you can't reach all the way down, then what do you do?
So that's a great question, right? There's a point where maybe you do need to move your spine. If you need to pick something up off the ground and you can't from standing, that's one way. Or training yourself to do it from seated, right? Are you able, right? So maybe you're not able to pick something off the ground and standing from going into that squat. But maybe you're able to sit in your chair and find that range of motion to pick something up off the ground. So then it would be training that range of motion before you add the strength. Because in the chair, when I reach down to pick something up, it's purely range of motion. There's very little strength involved. So if you're able to do that, then you know that what needs to happen is that you start to work on the strength of doing it. And then, let's say actually in daily life, you need to pick something up off the ground. Then you need to pick something up off the ground and you might need to bend your spine. But what's important is that you move whatever is heavy closest to you. So I'm going to show on the chair just because it'll be easier for you to see and I didn't bring the screen all the way down. Let's say I'm picking something up, that weight up off of the ground, and my range of motion stops here, right? I can't reach it. I've gotten to the point, I've gotten to my max, I'm a few inches away. Then it's fine to round the back to grab it, but then move the weight as close to your body as you can. So right, the weight was over here, I grabbed it, I rounded my back a little because I had to. Move the weight close to your body before you come to stand. Because if you pick up the weight way out here, it's much heavier and it's a lot more strain on those joints. So if you can, you're picking that heavy thing up off the ground and you have to round your back. Please move the weight close to your body before you come up. And then also one more thing, sorry, I can talk forever, is thinking about playing with different light positions. So maybe it's hard for you to reach down when your legs are next to each other. But maybe with a staggered stance, you're able to get lower. So playing around with, are there ways for you to get down towards the earth without moving your spine, but feeling free to move your legs into different positions? One more thing would be
Thank
that you
you.
can take your legs wide. If you take your legs really wide and you go down, is that easier for you? So letting yourself explore what makes it more possible. And of course, at some point you might need to move the spine, and that's okay.
Great, thank you. We had bonus content. Well, appreciate that. And for everybody here, thank you for being a part of this. I hope that you'll join again next week where we will have chair yoga. And until then, I hope everyone stays safe and healthy and happy, and hope you have a good rest of your week. So take care. Bye.